YouTube world. Here for my first ever live stream. I'm very nervous, excited, so let's see how this goes. So I'm here to talk about The Green Witch, which we chose for the monthly book club discussion book this month. And as you can see, I have many little tags which I have in my copy so that hopefully, even if nobody jumps in on this little chat that I have, which I am a few minutes early because I am compulsively early. Which luckily I did, because at first I was really scared that this was not going to work. I've never done this before. This is my first ever live stream. Hey Runa, thanks for joining me. I'm getting into the swing of things over here. Luckily, got the live stream working after just a brief moment of panic trying to figure out how to get everything set up. But I think we're good now. Hopefully people can hear me. I just got my little earbuds in, but yeah, I'm going to talk about this book here, which I'm not going to lie, I skimmed through some parts just because there's definitely just some sections in the back of this book that are just general overviews listing, different magical properties of plants and flowers and herbs and whatnot. So that was just kind of like, what do I actually have? What have I actually used before? And what's kind of around me or might be of interest to me out of those sections. But yeah, I was able to get through most of it, and I was actually really surprised and delighted with how much I enjoyed this book and how much I got out of it, because going into it, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself like a green witch. I'm not a fan of labels in general, but yeah, if I had to categorize myself, green witch would not have been a label that first comes to mind. But this year, we've had a little backyard garden going for a couple years at my house now. And one thing that I've definitely always really wanted to do was to have a little herb garden back there just for cooking, if nothing else. And then one of my other goals is to eventually turn my front yard into a little cottage garden. So hopefully eventually I will be able to do that. I really wanted to use like native plants and have like a butterfly bee, like pollinator friendly front garden, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I have been slowly collecting some books like this that kind of go into herb lore as part of witchcraft, but it's not necessarily something that I would call myself, at least not right now. I don't know a whole lot about it yet. And yeah, right now my whole garden is just a pipe dream, but it'll happen hopefully this year. That's kind of why now that we're getting into February, it's time to start thinking about what we want to plant in our gardens this year. I know for me, especially where I live, I'm not quite so far in the north as some people, but I do start my seeds indoors around February or March so that I can just start getting things into the ground as soon as we're over the last frost here, which with the way the weather has been lately and the craziness, like sometimes we'll still get a freak snowstorm in April, so you never know. But I really wanted to start focusing on some books like this so that not only can I start preparing for, my vegetable garden and what have you, but also be able to start thinking about what types of magical plants and herbs do I want to grow this year. So I'm really excited to start learning more about that and learning more about this topic and being able to incorporate more of it into my practice, especially being able to use plants and herbs that I have grown myself on my own land. And so this book, I would say, is definitely a really good like beginner's book or primer into getting into like being a plant witch, being a green witch, and not just the herb lore side of things, but among the many like tags here that I have of like kind of discussion topics that we can touch on is the first thing that I marked off that I really liked and that kind of started to make this book and just the whole green witch concept as a whole really start to resonate and appeal to me more was at the beginning of the book here. I think it's like just on like page 15 when she starts talking about the path of the green witch and just what that means in general. And so it starts talking about how, yeah, all the bookmarks is definitely, you can take the girl out of college, but you can't take the college out of the girl, like still English major vibes. I'm like underlining and highlighting. And even I hate to say it because it's like kind of blasphemous on my part, but like even dog earring some of the pages for the parts I want to go back to. But especially for this being my first ever live stream talking about the book, I wanted to make sure as I was reading that I was making a note of especially things that I wanted to discuss with you guys. So the first thing that I really enjoyed and that I liked was when the author just starts explaining that in general, the Green Witch's outlook is just all about the concepts of healing, harmony, and balance, all being key to, I think, not just Green Witch practice, but just pagan practice and witchcraft practice as a whole. And then it says that it embodies 3 specific focuses, which is the earth, humanity, and yourself. And so, yeah, like not just the earth being singled out and like plant witch life as being the focus, but just the whole vibing with the seasons and the cycles and the energies and the ebbs and flows of nature and of life and just the universe and everything. And that's definitely something that I resonate with a lot. And I'm really hard on myself, I think, in a lot of ways. If I'm like, oh, it's the new moon this weekend, I better get on my whatever thing I want to do. And if I miss that, or like and one of the things that I think drew me away from Wicca at first was just the whole like, oh yeah, you gotta like sit down and cast the circle and do all these things and have all these very precisely laid out and worded rituals and spells if you want to even start to do anything. And I'm like, I have a terrible memory. I don't have the time and the money and the mental capacity to memorize all these chants and set up all this stuff every time. Like, I'm so ADD, I can't do that. And so it's really helpful to just be able to step back and take this perspective of like it's okay to just go with the flow, whether that be like the flows of the outside world and things going on in nature, such as the seasons, and just observing those, which is, as I've said, one of the things that really drew me to paganism in the first place, was just taking a step back to appreciate the nature and the cycles of the seasons, and how even if the entire rest of the world and society is on fire and a hot mess, the seasons are still coming and going with relative certainty thanks global warming, but you know what I mean. Like, regardless of whether I'm here to see it or not, the sun is going to come up tomorrow, and that's kind of comforting. Look at me being all like shiny glasses, evil anime character. but but yeah, that was the first thing that really kind of made me take a pause when I was reading this book and be like, oh, okay, like maybe this isn't all just learning herb lore and things like that. And something that, yeah, just really resonated with me in my practice was letting yourself do things all in good time and in your own good time. Um, but yeah, because it mentions the modern Green Witch understands that humanity impacts the natural world not only with how individuals treat it, but also via the energy created by their feelings and beliefs. So, therefore, the Green Witch seeks to maintain harmony between humanity and nature. And especially for me, being like super Vayner vibes and really like working with the Vayner and feeling strongly pulled with them has and them being a group that's known for peace, harmony, and friendship really made me take a step back and examine just my own life and my own outlook and attitude. Like, I remember one of the first things I ever wanted to do as a kid in elementary school was they were offering a system where you could sign up to be like a student mediator and help like mediate fights on the playground between people. And I'm really shy. I've always, I think, been like kind of a shy person, but that was something I really wanted to do and something I still find myself doing, sometimes to my detriment. I'm very much conflict avoidant to the point where even if people are having just a good, like, spirited debate, like not necessarily arguing about things, but even just like having a spirited, lively discussion about something, I'm like, stop it. Why are you yelling? Can't we all just get along? So I very much feel the striving to constantly maintain not only harmony between humanity and nature, but just harmony amongst my fellow humans as a whole. So yeah, I definitely felt that. And yeah, just the part where it says, um, the Green Witch understands that people other affect other people with their energy and strive to maintain a harmonious energetic environment in which people can feel calm and empowered to improve themselves in a positive fashion and interact with each other with ease and love. And that is so me. Like, that's all I want is just like the Vayner vibes. So so yeah, that was definitely the first part that I really liked. It even touches a little bit on shadow work also being important in order to like maintain harmony within yourself. And yeah, that's definitely one thing that even before I got into the whole witchcraft thing, I had inadvertently found myself doing was a lot of shadow work. So I'm glad that that was also mentioned here as a necessary component. So let's see, what else does it say? Touches a little bit here then into what might be categorized as different types of green witches, like kitchen witch, hedge witch, things like that. Um, and then just some different components of what it means to maybe be a modern green witch, which I don't know about you guys, but that can definitely be hard in this day and age, especially in like, yeah, modern technological society and just being stuck in like the day-to-day 9 to 5 grind. Humanity as a whole, like we've really just taken steps to, I think, separate ourselves from nature and being um what word am I searching for? Being like it under the control of nature. however you want to say that, like we have air conditioning, we have modern day housing and hot and cold running water, which I definitely appreciate this time of year. Like I want all of the boiling hot showers and baths. So I definitely appreciate all of the modern conveniences that we have available to us in this day and age, but it also does make it really hard to just be in touch with those natural cycles, like especially if you're living in a big city. Like I live in a pretty small size city. There's maybe 117,000 people in Springfield, but at least like there's parks and there's trees, and we kind of just live in one of those basic average places where I at least like have my own backyard. So I'm very grateful for that. Some people don't even have that, so it can be really hard to be a plant witch or a modern green witch. Especially this time of year because it's frickin' cold. I need to go outside more and just take more walks. But yeah, it's January. It's the coldest. It's the coldest time of the year. So especially now, it can be pretty hard to feel connected to nature. But I think that's just another way to incorporate that into observing the cycles of when it's cold and all the plant life around you is dead. If you live in this hemisphere, that's the time to let yourself like go inward and kind of hibernate and just rest and retreat and like work on yourself. I've definitely been trying to do that, to just kind of let myself take a break, slow down, don't feel so much pressure to go, and yeah, like always have to be studying something, always have to be planning something to film. um I'm happy about starting the book club because it'll give me a way to just focus on like reading one book at a time throughout a month. So yeah, I think it'll definitely be beneficial to me for that. And just, yeah, in this time of year, letting yourself observe the cycles in that way by also allowing yourself to kind of cut back and rest. Yeah, doing lots of indoor activities, living that Hig life, cozy life. Luckily for me, I have like a gas fireplace in my den, so we'll just like sit next to the fire, cozy up under a blanket with all the kitties. Definitely just been trying to, yeah, allow myself to take that time to just be lazy, veg out, relax, just chill. Like you don't have to be doing anything all of the time. And I'm really like I said, one of the ways in which I'm really hard on myself because I feel like if I am like I always joke that like what if my favorite thing to do is nothing? What if just doing nothing is one of my favorite activities? Like I don't even want to admit how much time I spent playing The Sims this weekend. But so then sometimes, yeah, I'm really down on myself and like, oh, I'm being lazy. I could be doing more with my life, but it is what it is. I think, and yeah, part of what it expresses in this book is just letting yourself ebb and flow with your own natural cycles and your own energies. Like, I don't know about you or if it's like the moon or what I can blame it on, but like even just from week to week and month to month, like my energy levels will ebb and flow. Like for a week, I'll just be like totally energized and inspired and go. And then I'll have like a couple days to a week where I'm just like, ooh, I don't want to do anything. Like I'm burnt out mentally. I can't like absorb anything that I'm reading. So it's important to not only take time when you can and where you can to be in touch with the natural cycles, but also with your own. And this can be a really good time while nature is kind of hibernating to do that. Yes, rest is a ritual, and I'm definitely trying to maintain that attitude of like, sorry, not sorry. If I need to just take a break or like a mental health day or whatever, yeah, like healthy boundaries, y'all. So yeah, it goes big into just learning to identify the cycles of the earth and magic being. I think the next section I have marked out here is page 25, where it talks about the magic of being a green witch, and saying that magic is the art of learning to recognize these elements of change. And I think definitely if you're a Loki follower like me, one of the things that he has taught me is the only constant in life is change. Like it or not, nothing can stay the same forever. As much as I want it to and want to live in my comfort zone and like my routines, um, you know, yeah, everything changes. We need to learn to go observe those changes and go with them sometimes, observing the natural patterns of flow and ebb, and yeah, the times of progress and then of standing still and retreating. So, magic teaches us to determine which way the tides of nature are flowing and see maybe what energies we need to then be harnessing in that moment. Yeah, hail Loki. I fought it. I still kind of fight it, you guys, because yeah, like when I first met Freya and wanted to be a pagan, I was like, oh, I want to work with Odin. Should I maybe set up an Odin altar and reach out to Odin because I love learning? And then yeah, all I got was a bunch of Loki, and now I'm just like, oh yeah, let's talk Lokis, and I'm known as like a Lokian and a Chaos Kid, and I'm just like, I just have it's another thing I've just had to accept and examine those parts of myself that I'm like, yeah, I could kind of see where that could be true. So yeah, I've definitely just had to accept that I am a Chaos Kid at heart. I had to move around a lot as a kid, so I think that definitely also taught me to have to adapt and go with changes. And yeah, always having to adapt and fit into new surroundings. So that was definitely one thing that I helped me to resonate with Loki and maybe start to realize why he was coming around in my life and like claiming me as one of his own. But yeah, it says one, I think, important distinction that I kind of touched on as being a reason why I had spent so much time kind of learning about Wicca and interested in it, but then didn't actually ever follow through with practicing it, is that it says here at the bottom of that page, in other witchcraft practices, there are methods by which energy is raised, aimed at a target or goal and released. Like I said, with the whole raising a circle, charging up a spell, and then directing your energy where you want it to go out of that circle. But it says the Green Witch can use energy in a slower, more subtle way. Seeking to just be part of that ebb and flow of the energy around her, she thus does not deliberately collect energy to shape and release, but works from the inside out and moves with the natural flow of energies instead of seeking to manipulate them. And I think that's definitely something that I seek to do. Like, don't get me wrong, every now and then, like especially right now, I am super thinking about like what specifically do I want to be manifesting? What specifically do I want to plant in my herb garden this year so I can work on my spell work, and get into doing more specific spells and workings. But yeah, that whole thing with like, if you miss the full moon or the new moon, or you're not able to go do something on an equinox or a solstice, as long as as long as the timing feels right to you, that's all that matters. You don't have to spend all of this time and this energy and have all these knickknacks and like special tools. It's more just about being able to sense those subtle energies. And I think part of being able to like sense the web of weird or whatever is being able to see how those threads are interconnected and those subtle energies, and being able to just pull a little thread here, tweak a little thread there, and you can kind of slowly start to hedge things where you want them to go. Like, it can be really easy to try to sit there and cast this big money spell. It's definitely something that I do want to be trying, and I am trying to do like job opportunity manifesting spells for myself and like more specific things like that. But it's also okay to just kind of be like, what in general am I sensing like that I want to direct energies toward in more subtle ways? And how can I apply my magic and my willpower in those more sly, subtle ways that will still kind of butterfly affect their way on up to create that hurricane on the other side of the world, that type of thing. So I think, yeah, being able to use natural energies in that way is something that appeals to me, as opposed to, yeah, having a big, powerful working. Um, but yeah, it says that in this book, there's no rules for creating a circle in which you must work, no compulsory calling on deities, no sequences of formal ritual. Your practice can be just more fluid and natural. Like for me, I've definitely been doing pretty much everything on instinct so far. And it's been really fun and kind of funny to then now go back and be reading things like The Spiral Dance by Starhawk, or The Psychic Witch is another one that I just finished and really enjoyed, and see how much of the techniques and like basic things that they go over in some of these books is resonating with me, and being like, oh, that does sound kind of like some of the things that I've already intuitively been doing. And so this book is really good at just kind of validating for my own practice of being like, it's okay to not have that whole song and dance of making everything this huge full-blown ritual with all the bells and whistles, and you have to have the exact right ingredients and the exact right time of the moon. Like, just go with the flow, baby. Do what feels right. Do what you need to and what you want to when you need to do it. And yeah, trust your gut. Go with your intuition, and you will be surprised, or maybe not surprised in the long run, at how well your own intuitions can serve you when it comes to magic. So yeah, that was one thing that it emphasized in this book that I really liked. And then from there goes on. What was the next thing I had marked off to talk about? Ooh, here's a fun thing that I liked. Sorry if my webcam is crap, but Broom Purification. One thing that I ironically ended up doing for Halloween in 2020, I wanted to go all out for like Halloween decorations on my house. So I actually ended up just using like some sticks in my backyard to make witches' brooms. And at the time, it was just as decor. But then I ended up liking them so much that I kept them. And now, like they're still sitting in my backyard. I might come put one up by my front door as like a protection thing. Just have like a subtle little broom tucked in the corner. Which, funny story, actually. When I was leaving for work the other morning, my husband leaves for work before me, and I stepped out on my front porch and was getting ready to lock the door, and I look over, and I'm like, there's a stick there. Like, there's just a little short walking stick type branch sitting tucked there under our mailbox by the front door. I'm like, I didn't put that there. What's that doing there? And so it reminded me of like those stories of like the magical Irish walking sticks that will follow you. And I was like, I figured that my husband had to have been the one that put it there. So I asked him about it later that day. And I was like, there was a random stick by the front door. Like, please tell me that was you and not like it could have been the land spirits again. He's like, yeah, it looked like a good walking stick. But I was just like, all right, just random sticks appearing at my house now. Cool. But yeah, one thing that it talks about was like cleansing and purification methods for the home. And so as part of that, if I can find that page again, yeah, it goes over broom purification. One thing that I did was with some of like the feathers that I have collected, I like wrapped them together with a leather cord to make a like smoke cleansing broom or brush type thing with feathers. But I think it could also be cool to make a little like mini witch's broom. Like I've seen just different craft versions on Etsy. And that could be a fun thing to do at like gatherings. We could collect up natural branches that we find at the land, and like everyone can make their own little mini cleansing and protection broom, and then we could all take them home with us at the end, and like, yeah, kind of above my door right now, I actually have a lucky horseshoe hanging above my front door. But yeah, you could hang it in like a doorway or a window and like take it down and use it when you need to like do some spiritual magical cleansing of your house. I think that could be something really cool that I want to start doing and incorporating. It also goes over how to make your own broom purification incense, which I thought was cool. Something I definitely might try out. And then the next section that I was really interested in and resonated with me that I am thinking about incorporating into my practice is it has a section on using the elements inside the home. And it talks about having element shrines, not just deity shrines, but maybe an area in your house dedicated to each of the elements. And I thought that was kind of cool because in my house right now, another thing that I actually wanted to discuss with you guys on here is that it makes an interesting distinction in this book between an altar and a shrine. And that's something that I've never really seen discussed before. And honestly, I think it just boils down to semantics at the end of the day. Call them whatever you want. Because I've just always been referring to my deity places as altars. You know, I have a Freya altar, Freyr altar, Odin Loki altar, and now I also have an area in my home, a little area, a little nook dedicated to Ganesha. And I have a little area dedicated to Nehelenia, which is a goddess of like the North Sea and like travel and prosperity. And so I have a lot of like water themed things around her little area. But to come back to my original topic, it says here in this book that makes a distinction between a shrine and an altar. And in this book says that they're not the same. This defines an altar as a place of focus consecrated to the spiritual use of the Green Witch, like a place to hold tools and equipment and perform spells and workings. So it can be permanent or temporary. So, and then like many witches, it says can set up just a temporary altar anytime they wish to work. And then this says shrines are what are used to honor deities or elements. Whereas like, yeah, an altar, I guess, is more of like an active workspace. So I thought that was interesting. And I wondered what you guys think about making that distinction between an altar and a shrine, because I've just been referring to mine as altars, but really in my mind, they are more like shrines because I don't really do spells at them unless like there's been a couple times I'll go like make a specific entreaty like to Odin at the altar, but in terms of like a workspace, that would be this table that my computer is sitting on. That's where I found myself doing all of my spell work, just because it's a desk where I can have all my little tools and implements and knickknacks laid out over here and do my work. And then I do have another little area over here, like my little hell, like a little hell shrine, I guess you would call it, because I don't do anything with it really. But yeah, I would almost call like my Ganesha area a shrine because I don't really plan. I haven't really done anything actively with him. I don't really plan to. That might change if he starts coming around more. But yeah, I would definitely kind of define that space more like just a shrine, or my little Nehelenia area is just a statue made of her and some seashells and stuff. And I don't really do anything. It's just kind of tucked in a little out of the way area of my house that looks where it looks pretty and almost serves just more as a little shrine. Just a little area devoted to them and that energy. And so I thought that was really interesting that it makes a distinction between the two. And so I guess, like, yeah, I would have to maybe start referring to it as like a Freya shrine. But I think where the distinction comes in for me personally is that I do kind of take more of an active role at those areas, at the Freyr and Freya and Odin Loki. I would call them more altars because I do kind of perform like active energy workings at them and like leave offerings pretty frequently. So for me, it's more of an active space. and I try to like actively spend time there. And yeah, definitely goes along with what Runa says. Like to me, there's definitely an important distinction between just worshiping a deity versus working with them. And that's also, I think, why I like to call it a Freya altar more than a Freya shrine, because especially with the Norse gods, they do not just want like to be fawned over. They don't just want you to like slavishly worship them like a mindless slave. It's definitely for me more of a mentor mentee relationship of like mutual respect, but there is that respect and reverence which for them as deities. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting distinction. And once again, it definitely just, I think, boils down to what feels right for you personally, whatever you want to reference them as. Because, yeah, I have now areas in my own house that I would refer to, like they're all for deities, but some I think of more as shrines and some I think of more as altars. So that was just kind of cool. And it says again that like green witches can follow their intuition. And so you might not even perform rituals or work spells in the same place each time, choosing the location for what feels right for your purpose. So yeah, like even if this is my like dedicated workspace and workroom, if I want to go do something with the land spirits, I might go out back to my little outdoor altar under the tree and do something there. So yeah, I like the idea of being a green witch, meaning that you're just really adaptable and flexible with your practice and just do what feels right in the moment for you, because that's just definitely something that I do. But one thing that it kind of goes on to talk about in this book is then having a little shrine or an area set up in your house for each of the different elements. And that is something that I kind of like. Like I could almost see doing a little feng shui thing with it, where you have areas set in like the four directions that correspond with each element, and kind of set it up as like a ley line in your own house almost. Like you could use it as like a protective barrier, you could use it to charge and like get energy from, like, just set up those points of energy along your house. And if you wanted to do something maybe specifically with one, you would then have an area that you could go to. I don't know, I just thought that was something cool. And yeah, I like, for me, just already having little areas in my house where I just throw up decorative knickknacks like seashells. You could have one that just has objects that you collected at the beach or remind you of water, and then one that has like earthy objects that you collected on hikes for like earth, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think that that could be something, a really cool way to incorporate like the elements, because I know that's big in like Wicca and some more traditional forms of witchcraft, like I said, of like not only casting the circle, but like calling the four guardians or the watchtowers or the different elemental guardians, which, like I said, was just kind of always too much for me. But yeah, I think, witchcraft and just magical thinking and symbolic thinking and all of the above just require you to be aware of elemental energies in some capacity. So definitely something that I need to start incorporating into my workings more. But yeah, inviting animal totems along with the elements. Like one thing that I kind of have on my Freyr altar is, since I view the Vanir, especially Freyr and Freya, as being born of both land and sea with Njord and Nerthus. Like with his altar, I kind of have it split down the middle. So on one half, I have objects that remind me of the ocean, like seashells and stuff. And on the other half, I have like bones and just different rocks and minerals and things that remind me of the earth. So have that little balance there. But it even says, you can experiment with creating a single shrine to all four elements, maybe something temporary that you can set up and take down as needed. And that could also just be something cool to do at a gathering location, to have like elemental shrines as well as deity areas. So yeah, different themed shrines. I just thought that was a cool concept in general. The next thing that I kind of wanted to take some more time out in my practice this year, as I am trying to get more into like the herbalism and herb lore, and like not only for practical but also magical applications, is it goes into like getting to know the world around you. As far as like, one thing that I've always liked to do is when I go on nature walks, if I find like a cool little flower or something, as long as you're not in like a protected area or something, like there will be some places in like national parks where you're not allowed to pick wildflowers because they're trying to like revegetate areas and it's bad. But if I'm just going to the park and I'm walking on a trail and there's like a cool little wildflower growing, like I might just pick it up and collect it because I want to learn about it, or just, like see what its energies feel like. And one thing that it talks about in this book is just really taking time with each plant to not only study how it feels and what you get from it, but also journal about it. So I definitely have like all of these notebooks, and there's one that I like want to set aside for like herb lore and herb study. And so I think that's definitely an important aspect, is not just going over like practical or what's common knowledge magical applications, but also like how does it resonate with you personally. So that's something that I really wanted to take the time to do, is just for me personally, getting to know the vibes of plants around me more, and what can I maybe use for working that you won't just find in every book. Because another thing it really talks about here that I thought was a good important topic of discussion is just, the seasonal cycles and energy, and how that's going to be different for everyone based on where you live. So like wherever you live, you're going to have some type of recognizable weather patterns, whether it be like a dry season and a wet season, or like right now I'm in like real winter, which will then be followed by mud season, or like, as I call it right now, pothole season. But it says like, when you observe the 4 seasons, you categorize the different changes in the climate that occur over the year. But there might just be like those certain things that whenever they start happening, that's like your cue. Like the thing that it says here is like, when we observe a certain event happening in the natural world, we can say, now it is spring. And for me, that resonated with me personally because I don't know what those signs are for you, of like that really signal the coming of the changes of the seasons. But when I start to see the first robins coming back and little robins hopping around in the front yards, that's my cue to be like, now spring is officially here. I don't care what the date on the calendar says. When I see the robins start popping up everywhere, that's my like personal cue to be like, now it is spring. So I was wondering kind of what cues like that you guys have. Like, what are those signs that you've picked up on where you are for the natural shifts in the energies? That's like your signs that like, yes, like the change is coming, because I don't know about you guys, but for me, there's a certain smell in the air when it's cloudy and going to rain, and then there's like a different smell when it's cold and like a cloudy day and it's going to snow. I don't know how to explain it, but like everyone just kind of has those inner cues, I think, whether you're aware of them or not. And being a green witch, I think, is just taking time to really notice those shifts in energies, and just observe the natural world around you. Even if you're not looking for anything specific, just the more you take time to look at things around you, the more you will see. The more you will pick up on. But yes, I think definitely a very important part of any pagan practice is just being able to detect those energy shifts, and just resonating with and wanting to not only observe, but honor and acknowledge those changes in the cycles. From there, the book just kind of goes on to give a brief overview of each season and different ways that you can celebrate, the autumn and winter, spring, summer, solstices, and equinoxes. It had some really good rituals that I want to do for like consecrating your own garden that I'll probably do this year when it gets warm. Because yeah, I'm definitely wanting to bring those magical energies in and start growing my own herbs for magical applications and have like a medicinal herb garden as well. So that's something that I'm definitely really big on. We're going to try to turn our little garden bed into a raised garden bed this year. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, see, like I said, it's the weather's so crazy here that sometimes we'll still have a freak snowstorm in April. So for me, I'm like, when I see the robins come back, that's when it's finally spring. They're hanging around and maybe winter's finally done. Let's see. Then after that, it has a little area on the magic of trees, which is definitely like speaks to my little druid heart. So I have a couple more books that maybe go a little bit more in depth on tree magic specifically, but I like that it does not only have sections with overviews of plants, herbs, but also trees, and then how to ethically collect and harvest such materials, how to tap into the energies of flowers, because that's definitely also a really important topic that like I think needs to be touched on, is not just like ethically harvesting things when you go foraging for the environment, in terms of like if you come across something, this book like stresses, don't pick all of it, leave some to grow. And like don't take all of the plant, don't pluck it out by the roots, like take only the parts that you need. And I think not only is that really important just environmentally speaking, but especially for us as pagans, if we want to work with the land and the spirits of the land and have a good relationship with those energies, it's really important to be conscious about how, where, and when you're harvesting things. And like especially I can speak from experiences that some areas in particular just don't do it. Either make sure you're really being conscious of leaving offerings and like equivalent of exchange of leaving before you take, or every time you take something, or like read the room. And if you're getting the vibes that like these trees don't want to be your friends, or like it doesn't want you to take anything, don't do it. Find somewhere else, move along. So it's really important to also not only be environmentally conscious, but spiritually conscious before you harvest plant materials. Oh man, how is this getting so long already? I want to try to keep this stream to like an hour, you guys, because like I know it's a Sunday night. We all have things to do to prepare ourselves for the week. I don't know about you, but I'm going to go take a bath after this to get myself all cleansed and re-cleansed and grounded and centered before I have to think about going back to work tomorrow. So, but I'm really glad that I got to sit here and talk to you guys about this book, because yeah, I going into it honestly didn't think I was going to find so much in it that I wanted to apply and that resonated with me. So I'm really excited. It even has a little section here on empowering and working with stones and crystals, because those are natural elements that come from the earth as well, and don't forget it. So yeah. Then it has a whole chapter on how to keep a green witch garden, and how to go, just the basics of how to plan and start a garden, which, so like I said, that also makes this a really good book just for beginners and people that are really just wanting to learn start from scratch, and like how do I get started with all of this. And then it goes into working with the plants, how to prepare herbs, extracting the energies of the plants, and how different ways of working with them and preparing them, which I think is very important. Like I really want to start growing things to make my own teas. I don't know if you can hear, but like my voice is really starting to get hoarse. I've been so congested lately that I really want to start making my own herbal teas and things like that. But another thing that I am really glad it touched on in this book that I also wanted to emphasize is that it says, certain, definitely make sure that you know your shit before you start messing with this shit. Because, yeah, like certain parts of the plants, like working with one part is fine, but if you ingest it, it'll kill you. And so it's not something to be taken lightly, and that's why it's simply something that I'm going to be taking baby steps into, as far as just apart from magical applications. And then definitely one thing that's important to remember is, like, especially if you're going to be burning plant matter, even just ritually, make sure that it's something that's not only safe for you to inhale, but like for me, I have cats, and cats, like their systems are so different even from dogs, that a lot of things that you could even use, or like incense and like essential oils and incense that is safe to burn around dogs, like I can't use around cats. So definitely be flexible. And if like something wants a specific ingredient, but if you don't have it, or it doesn't grow locally to you, or it's not safe for your house to use it, just adapt. Use what you have, and use what like kind of stands for the same meaning or energy to you. Mhm. What else? Oh, another thing that I thought was cool is it talks about how to perform elemental blessings on things. I definitely like arts and crafts, and I'm wanting to start to do more arts and crafts for the community. So I like the idea of, because a lot of people will ask when they're first starting out, especially using things like crystals, like how do I cleanse and charge a crystal? And it's like, well, a lot of the things that you'll use for one can also do the other. It just depends on like your intent. So I liked the idea of, if you're not sure whether you should use sun, smoke, salt, water, use them all. It says do a full elemental blessing and use all of them. Like, even if you don't want to take the whole time like me to like cast a circle and like call on the four corners, if I made myself a new set of runes or a new candle or a new sculpture or something, I do like the idea of using all of the elements to cleanse and charge something. So that is another thing I might take away for my practice, just in certain circumstances. And I'm kind of getting in toward the end of my little tabs here, luckily. Another fun project that it had in here was how to build garden stepping stones out of like just concrete or whatever. But I thought a cool thing you could do as like a pagan or something, or even a druid, is you could make your own stepping stones and incorporate runes or agam into them, and use that as a way to protect and consecrate your garden or your yard. So that might be something that I end up doing. There was another one that I really liked that I wanted to make note of here. Oh, it even has a whole chapter on how to become a natural healer. That's definitely something that I have always felt drawn toward. Yes, I wish there were local herbology tutors. I was kind of sad when Parker from the Discord, he was up here for a summer job, and I was just like, someone who knows shit about plants like needs to just take us all hiking and go on like a plant identification trip. That was always one of my favorite things to do growing up. I remember just a couple times as a kid having outdoor nature walks where we would just go walk around and someone would point out like different local like native plants and wildflowers and things like that. And yeah, I just really want to learn more about identifying what's safe, what's not safe. Like, I love mushrooms. I like eating them. I like looking at them. I like looking for them. Like, I just want to know more about plants, more about identifying plants in the wild. Like, yes, we need to start harassing some people in the community to get on that and start offering some interactive wildlife identification classes or something. I don't know. Somebody make that a thing. But yeah, it goes on to how to use natural healing, which is definitely something that I wanted to do, because it says healing is just another form of rebalancing energies that have become disturbed or out of balance. Let's see, what else does it talk about? I think I have one more thing here. Oh yeah, it even talks about making your own bath salts. That's something that I've done before. I had a whole video on it. So yeah, it has lots of different, goes over lots of different basics on different plants and their uses, how to use that as in terms of like kitchen witchcraft, to make your own bath salts and things like that. And yeah, green witch kitchen recipes using symbolic associations with different fruits. Like there's a lot to go off of, and I think like that's why it does make a good book and like primer for beginners, is it introduces you to a lot of different things and practices that all fit under this green witch umbrella, so that you can kind of see what of what you like and like what appeals to you within that, and gives you kind of a jumping off point to where you might want to go learn more in different areas, whether that be starting a garden or even just like making your own essential oils without growing things yourself. There's a lot of different things to take away from this. What was the one that I oh yes, here it is. The one thing that I wanted to talk about specifically while I have you guys here, since I know we're coming up on Beltane here soon, and something that I actually did end up, I think, doing as like a hell ritual myself, around November or December last year when we were coming into like the waning half of the year. But this is a spring equinox egg ritual for welcoming creative energy into your life on page 89. So it's a ritual where it says you take an uncooked egg, and just like around Easter, you can dye it a different color depending on color magic and different color associations. And then it says you light a candle and hold the egg. And then it has a little example ritual or prayer here to maiden goddess of spring, light, life, which is all things that we are going to be looking to celebrate around Beltane and spring. So you say a little prayer and ask the goddess or the sun or the spring, all those good energies, to bless the egg. And then you set the egg next to the candle and write on a piece of paper an area of your life in which you wish to direct the creative energies of spring. And then you burn the paper and the candle, and while you let the egg sit there. And then it says, allow the candle to burn down completely. And when the candle has gone out, you take the egg and bowl of ashes outdoors and dig a hole in the ground. Place the egg in the hole, sprinkle the ashes of the paper on top of it, and bury them carefully with reverence. I really want to do that. I think that would be really cool for everybody to do as part of like a spring manifestation ritual. It has ties to Nerthus to me, with the whole like goddess of the cycles and rebirth and life and death, and all being encompassed in like this egg. I think there's just so much powerful symbolism in that ritual that is definitely one thing that I have marked off to do this coming spring, hopefully at an upcoming gathering. I really want to do that egg ritual. I was doing some cooking when I did it for Hell last year. I had been cooking something where I only needed like egg whites, and instead of wasting the egg yolks, I took them out back to the outdoor altar, which I kind of consider like almost a hell altar because I call the tree the hell tree. So I left the egg yolks out there under the altar. And this egg ritual, this spring equinox egg manifestation ritual, was definitely one takeaway that I want to practice very soon. And yeah, there is just, as you can see, a lot to take away from this book, and a lot that I really enjoyed about it. So I don't know if anyone else was able to read it cover to cover. I know I definitely, oh no, my computer's gonna die. I plugged it in though, I swear. Why isn't it working? There we go. Okay, I should be good now. The power strip wasn't switched to on. Ha ha ha. But we got this. But I mean, anyway, we are coming up on the hour mark. So if you guys, if there's anything that I didn't touch on that you guys wanted to mention that you liked about this book, I would really like to hear your thoughts about it. But yeah, I know for me personally, there's a lot that I have not just tabbed with as like discussion topics for this video, but then I also went in and like dog-eared a couple pages for the things that I want to go back and like do for me personally, such as not just journaling more overall, but especially like journaling my own experiences. Like it talks about just taking time to not only observe the changes in energies and shifts with the seasons and the cycles, but write about it. Like write about how you feel during each season, and write about how you feel when you're interacting with a specific plant or crystal. And that, so I think that could be really useful for me as someone who's just starting out, to write like my initial observations and then be able to go back each year and like reflect on how things may have evolved or stayed the same over the years as I grow in my practice. So yeah, there's a lot to take away from this. I'm really excited that we ended up going with this book because, like I said, I think it serves as a great jumping off point for anyone who's interested in getting into like plant witchcraft, or starting an herb garden, or just working with plants more as a pagan or in witchcraft, or both. Yeah, I'm really excited to do some things. And to then, like, I have a lot of other books also along the same lines on like green witchcraft that I can now jump into, and kind of see how they compare, how they might be a little bit more detailed in some areas, because like I said, this does a great job of providing a basic overview on some of the more common plants and like trees and things that you'll find in most spells or magic books. But yeah, I'm excited to see what else it holds and see what I can get just from interacting with the plants and the nature here where I am locally. So yeah, I definitely want to have that cottage garden out front for like with all the native plants and wildflowers, because I feel like not only is that just friendly for the environment, but hopefully also like low maintenance, because like which would you rather have, a bunch of finicky things that aren't native to the area that require all this upkeep, or something that's used to growing here and can just sit outside and be happy no matter what, and you don't really got to worry about it. So I have a couple things up front already, you know, like a single a single echinacea flower, I have two yellow yarrows growing out front, but you know, baby steps. So yeah, I'm really glad that some of y'all were able to join me for this live stream. If nothing else, I hope that if you go back and you watch this video later, that it will just serve as a pretty somewhat comprehensive review of the Green Witch. And so look in the coming weeks for a list of more possible books to choose from for next month's book club. Like, how is it almost February already? I swear it was just New Year's, but yeah, somehow I was able to carve out the time. That's definitely, I think, part of my observing my own natural cycles, and especially with this being kind of the quiet part of the year. We're done with the holidays. We're just kind of in that transitionary lull, waiting for winter to be done, and spring to move in. Like, I'm ready for the warmer weather. So now is a good time to just kind of give yourself time to rest, read, relax, study up, figure, and start making some plans, tentative plans for what you want to do in the coming months. So yeah, definitely looking forward to going through my seeds and seeing what I want to start growing this year. Is there anything you guys are looking forward to growing? I bought a lot of squash seeds last year, and I tried to plant some, but none of them made it. I really like spaghetti squash as a pasta alternative. I was trying to grow a butternut squash to make like soups and stuff. And yeah, I had a couple of different varieties, but sadly, none of them took off. Hopefully, I will have better luck this year. So yeah, I'm really excited to not only be like gardening again with the Vanier. I had great luck just working informally with them in my yard this year. But yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting to turn some empty spaces in my backyard into some herb gardens. We have some empty beds that are kind of full of rocks right now that are really close to my back porch. So it would be a perfect and really convenient place to plant herbs since it's not too far away from the kitchen. So I have lots of big plans this year as far as just gardening and green, all the green witchcraft stuff is concerned. Hopefully I'll be able to bring some of them to fruition, but yeah, it's all about harnessing that energy, right? So yeah, hopefully this will be a great reminder to make some upcoming videos in the warmer months of how I apply some of these rituals that I enjoyed, such as like there's a whole ritual on how to bless and consecrate your garden and call on energies for those purposes. So yeah, I look forward to sharing with you what I take and apply from this book and how I do it. But yeah, if anyone has any more questions or comments, speak now or forever hold your peace. But yeah, we're getting on the hour mark, so I think otherwise I might leave this video off there. Thank you so much again for everyone that's joined me or popped in on this. One thing that's kind of really held me back from doing live streams before is that dread in the back of your head of being like the kid where you invite people to your birthday party and nobody shows up. Like, what if I do a live stream and nobody shows up? And I figure, if nobody did, I would just sit here and review the book to myself anyway, which at least gives me something to go off of. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys being here. I tried to keep up with the comments, and yeah, I had my laptop set up so that I would be able to see everything. I think it's gone really well for a first ever live stream attempt. Let me know what you guys think, if this format worked for you, if this time worked for you. Yeah, I know for me, Sunday nights, I'm usually just kind of winding down and trying to like take it easy. My personal rule is I try to not put on real pants on a Sunday if I can help it. So yeah, hopefully the Sunday evening worked well. But otherwise, like I have no life. So if we want to have a chit chat earlier in the day, that would work fine for me too. Honestly, I spent most of this late afternoon just kind of sitting around like, oh my God, I'm so like nervous, excited, anticipation to come on here and start this live stream. Is it 7:00 yet? So yeah, earlier time would work great too. But yeah, it's definitely something I was really excited to launch this year and hopefully keep up for the coming year, is to have a monthly book club discussion where I can go through my super long reading list or wish list of books that I want to read and have a community to help focus on a certain topic and just focus on one book instead of my little crazy brain that wants to just be reading like 5 different things at once and always bouncing back and forth. So this is really beneficial for me as well to help keep me focused and on track. And yeah, because I don't know about you guys, I used to sit and read all the time when I was younger. That's just like what I spent my childhood doing, was reading alone in my room. And I would even, sometimes have the TV on in the background, but I wouldn't really be paying attention to it. I would be sucked into my book. And I don't know if it's just because I'm like out of practice or if I have like COVID brain or just ADD or what it is, but it's so hard. It was so hard for me to sit down and focus even on like something that I'm interested in. So I've really had to sit down and make myself concentrate at times. Like maybe that's part of why I like to underline and things in my books, is it helps me feel like I'm absorbing everything more. So yeah, hopefully this will also be a good way to just get back in the habit of reading because I love to do it. And for those of you who are out there who maybe want to start reading books, but you can't afford to buy all of these books, or you're not an avid reader, you don't have a lot of time or patience for reading, so maybe you just want to know more like, okay, if I'm going to spend the time or the money to read something, hopefully these reviews can kind of help you narrow down what you want to read. Or if you don't like reading at all and you just want someone who does read stuff to sit here and talk to you about it, then hey, that works for me too. Either way, whatever floats your boat, glad to have you here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for watching my channel. Yeah, and until next time, stay classy, pagans.